Before we get into this article, I saw the movie yesterday. It was pretty good. I had a good time watching it. It was a coming of age story, just like any other superhero movie that has its origin story. But to me, there are some things I did not like about this film, and that doesn't make this film bad. It's just some things that really bother me about it because of how bad the villains were written in this story. Now, even though they were far different from the comics and the cartoons, but the movie pretty much just casted the wrong actors to play villains. But the way they were played out in this movie, it just wasn't it. I feel like the villains were pretty much the weakest link in the film. But Blue Beetle itself was the most fun character I've ever seen. X-Lo from Cobra Kai did an amazing job as Blue Beetle because he's pretty much became the new franchise in Blue Beetle. I hope they do a sequel because now I'm hearing some things about this movie saying that it flopped in the box office because it only came in $25 million. But I shouldn't let those negative effects affect my enjoyment of this film overall. It's a good film. It's not bad and it's not terrible. It is what it is. So, but overall, I had a good time with this movie. I still enjoyed it for what it is. It's pretty much your Spider-Man slash Power Rangers type of movie because of the way it fights, creating weapons and all of that, which is kind of cool to say the least. So I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 5 for me. I just loved it. I enjoyed it, and I'm gonna watch it again. And shout out to George Lopez in this movie because he was freaking hilarious in this film. So the title of this video, it says box office Blue Beetle stumbles with 25 million debut ends Barbie's 4-week streak. Speaking of Barbie, even though some people enjoyed it, but I think the message I've seen people was talking about is saying how it made men look terrible, and you can tell this film has feminism written all over it because I've seen a bunch of women breaking up with their men because they didn't want to support this movie, and I pretty much think the movie did cause an uproar when it comes to feminism of how they're now encouraging women to break up with their partners if their partners didn't want to see this garbage. And I find that pretty stupid to me because why would I want to see a movie that is for women? I'm not a fan of Barbie. I never was and I never will because I'm not a female. I'm a man. I'm into boy stuff. Blue Beetle has dethroned Barbie at the domestic box office. The latest DC superhero adventure claimed the #1 spot despite a softer than expected debut of 25.4 million. At the international box office, Blue Beetle, starring X-Lo as the alien symbiote, added 18 million from 63 markets, with 43 million globally. Is one of the softest starts in the history of DC Cinematic Universe. It's so unfortunate because a lot of us pretty much had hopes that this movie is gonna end up killing it in the box office because of the trailer look and how the fight scenes were when I first saw this movie by myself. I kind of knew that it wasn't gonna do well because it's been the lack of promotion because of the writer's strike. I think that is what really ruined this movie because of the writer's strike in Hollywood. And even though the Latina community appreciated it, but I don't think the majority of the fans liked it because I sometimes think America has this way of not liking things that are good because they were pretty much expecting things to just be the way it was in the comics. And I think we all know that deep down inside that that's not really the case. All I care about is my enjoyment of this film. I can care less what people have to say about this film. If they like it, I'm gonna give them a support. If they're trash, well, I don't want to go there yet, but you get the picture. 4 consecutive weekends in the first place, Barbie landed on her feet at second place with 21.5 million from 4,000 theaters. A huge result at this point in its theatrical run. After 5 weeks of release, Greta Gerwig's fantasy comedy has generated 563 million and will soon overtake Universal's animated The Super Mario Bros. Movie, 574 million, as the biggest domestic release of the year. You know, if I were Nintendo, I would probably just fight for the #1 spot once again, because the Super Mario Bros. Movie is still the biggest grossing in history. With its impressive debut, it blew up everywhere. It made its money. It did its thing. It did its job. So I haven't seen Greta yet, but if I have to see what it looks like, I'll probably check it out. Blue Beetle costs more than 100 million to produce and many millions more to promote. So it'll need to defy the box office odds to justify its price tag. Reviews and word of mouth may not do much to fill seats. The film has a B+ cinematic score and 77% on Rotten Tomatoes. Fresh, certified fresh. In a note to press, Warner Bros. Suggests the impact of Tropical Storm Hillary is anticipated to be significant, particularly in Southern California, where the film is over-indexing. It's the third DC film in 2023 to trundle out of the gate after Shazam, Fury of Gods, 30.1 million in March, and The Flash, 55 million in June, even 2021's The Suicide Squad, which debuted in theaters and on HBO Max, enjoyed a bigger start with 26.2 million. But that film, as well as Shazam 2 and The Flash, which flopped in their theatrical runs, were based on higher profile characters compared to Blue Beetle. I think that's probably the biggest disappointment the most because of what's going on in Hollywood. I think what James Gunn should have done was just hold off until maybe the strike is over, or probably just don't put it out at all. I don't know, man, but I just think that Hollywood just needs to get their ass together and just end this strike already, because all we want is those numbers going up high. Even though it's gotten a certified fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes and it's gotten a B+, but sometimes I just wish Hollywood could just end the strike already. All we wanted is to see those numbers continue to go up. Even though I personally enjoyed this movie, I thought it was good. I love the action, I love the comedy, I love the drama. But as far as like the villains goes, those were the weaker points in this movie. For me, basically. But that doesn't mean that I hate the movie overall, as some people on YouTube are making it a big deal. It's still kind of strange. Directed by Angel Miguel Solo, the film centers on college graduate Jamie Reyes, who gets chosen to become the symbiotic host to an ancient alien tech that can turn him into the superhero known as Blue Beetle. A fourth DC adaptation, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, is slated to release in December before the studio's new chief James Gunn and Peter Safran take the flatter comic book universe in entirely new direction. In nearly flawless years, the comic book genre has performed unevenly during the last 3.5 years, says David A. Gross, who runs the movie's consulting film franchise entertainment research. We're going to know more about superheroes in November and December. He adds in reference to Aquaman 2 as well as Disney sequel The Marvels on November 10th. Those two films were determined the state of superheroes in 2023 and going forward. As far as like the Marvels and Aquaman 2, I don't care about this. I mean, I don't care about them basically because I'm not a fan of the Marvels. But Aquaman 2, I definitely don't support it because they allow the abuser to stay in the film. And you know who I'm talking about, so I'm not gonna say her name. Was talking dog comedy Strays also stumbled in its debut, digging up apparently 8.3 million from 3,223 theaters for a 5th place finish. The R-rated movie cost 46 million and could struggle overseas, where funny films tend to have limited appeal. It flopped at the international box office with 1.9 million from 21 territories for a global tally of 10 million. This is a soft opening, says Gross. Audiences ratings are good with lukewarm reviews from critics. Theatrical comedies are a rare breed in Hollywood these days, and even with the Sari voice cast, Will Ferrell and Jamie Foxx, Strays far worse than Jennifer Lawrence's Ranchy. Know her feelings. 15 million and Universal Dogs Fuel Cocaine Bear 23 million, excuse me. It barely beat Stand Up Inspired the Machine, which crumbled with 5 million. I think at some point the writer's strike had a negative effect in these movies because of actors and actresses wanted better pay because they were only paid less when they started filming TV shows and movies and all of that. But one can assume that we shouldn't lose hope because once the strike is over, it's going to get back on its feet. You shouldn't let anything panic for the most part. I guess you could say a long article for me to read, even though I had to edit some stuff out. But like I said, I still enjoyed this film for what it is. I'm not gonna let it determine people should stop seeing this movie. They should go out and support it. You know, get those numbers running. If not, it is what it is. But like I said, I still enjoyed this movie for what it is, what it gave me, what it provided for me. That shouldn't stop anybody from seeing this movie because of one bad thing that happened in the film. That doesn't make it a bad movie. Because I've seen some trashy, terrible reviews on YouTube that gave it a 2 out of 5. Like, do you want a perfect movie or do you want a movie that is going to make you happy? Because if you're calling it trash because of one thing, then I don't know. I don't know what to say. But at the end of the day, even though it did what it needed to do at 25 million, even though it flopped, unfortunately, it gave us something to look forward to in the future when it comes to James Gunn in the DCU. Like, it gave me hope and inspired me. So I just want to give a shout out to all of the Latinas out there. I love y'all. Like, y'all are the real MVPs. Men and women, children, teenagers, and adults. Y'all deserve a movie, a representation that has never been seen in Hollywood. And I think the Blue Beetle definitely delivered in all aspects. So, link to the article down below. I'm